Unfortunately, I see a lot of runners running with a heel strike in the Vibram Five Fingers or other similar forms of minimalist running shoes. Obviously, these runners are underinformed and are in the dark about the well established connection between foot strike pattern and impact generation during running, and why it's important to not heel strike during running, especially in a zero drop barefoot inspired minimalistic running shoe, for if you want to potentially avoid impact related injury. Hopefully those runners come across this video because I'm going to discuss the research that has revealed the consequential outcomes of heel striking during running in a barefoot styled minimalist running shoe. Consistent with the majority of the research out there, and I hope that this appears very obvious, a 2014 study published in the American Medical Athletic Association Journal, which is linked down below in the description box, found that running with a heel strike in zero drop minimalist running shoes with no underheel padding increased loading on the leg by 35%, and the researchers underscored that this harmful loading can only be effectively minimized via landing with a forefoot strike, especially in minimalistic barefoot styled running shoes. This could be one of the many reasons the minimalist running movement lost a little bit of steam in popularity, because how you use your feet during running is a key factor in impact production, and this point may often get missed, which is why sometimes you'll see a Vibram Five Fingers runner heel striking during running because they are unaware that heel striking during running is strongly associated with greater impact production, especially when running in minimalist running shoes as compared with forefoot striking. And oftentimes the well-known inevitable outcome of this scenario is the minimalist runner who's heel striking while running develops a bone fracture, particularly a shin bone fracture, and decides to go back to running in thick cushion traditional running shoes, thinking that these particular shoes will fully shield them from high impact and therefore will prevent injuries more fully, when in fact increased underfoot cushioning actually leads to increased foot strike intensity and a greater downward force during running, which is why traditional running shoes continuously prove to be less effective at stopping the flow of high impact variables most implicated in causing most impact related injuries. But what we do know is that luckily you can adopt a running style, forefoot running, that has been backed by hard evidence to have a positive effect on naturally minimizing bone cracking, loading, and impact forces, and is a better long-term solution that naturally provides its own sets of protections rather than relying on underfoot cushioning where impact is still high and the probability of injury may be always on the rise. The researchers also noted that there are other factors that enter into keeping impact low in addition to forefoot striking when running in minimalist barefoot inspired running shoes, and that is to increase your hip extension, which means develop a more rearward leg swing, or getting your stride to open up more behind you than in front of you, which would look like this. Increasing your hip extension provides a good basis for reduced impact production because it helps prevent you from overstriding and reaching a high brake force or collision force, since much of the leg swing activity is now occurring behind the body when hip extension is increased during running, and can help you more easily sustain forward momentum, which may also translate into improved running economy. Ultimately, your forefoot strike running style can be more effective at suppressing high impact loads by lengthening your stride behind you, not so much in front of you. The researchers also mentioned that increasing your cadence or step rate helps tone down impact loads, but luckily, just by landing on your forefoot during running naturally increases cadence. So you don't always have to force a higher cadence unless you still have leg discomfort during forefoot running. Then in that case, it's worth trying to enforce a slightly higher cadence, as a wealth of study has shown that most consistent progress in alleviating a painful lower leg condition common in runners known as chronic exertional compartmental syndrome. Most consistent progress in alleviating this particular condition has come from intentionally enforcing a higher cadence during forefoot running. So it's this exact combination of mechanical features: forefoot striking, greater hip extension, and increased cadence during running, especially in barefoot-like running shoes. This collective movement skill set gives a big supply of impact protection during running and is responsible for helping improve the odds of avoiding an impact-related injury by effectively reducing transmission of impact loads up the leg. Overall, true that minimalist running shoes are meant to do exactly what they are designed to do: strengthen the feet, help spread better landing stability because you are more physically closer and connected to the ground, enhance the motor coordination because of the sensory influx they do provide. However, you don't get the same sensory experience like you do when you run barefoot. The sensory components are good in most minimalist running shoes, but aren't always good enough like they are when you run barefoot to really help you accomplish the full forefoot running mechanical realignment that sparks far less impact production. The type of sensory feedback richness just isn't there the way that it is when you run barefoot. Because of this, some runners in minimalist barefoot running shoes don't automatically shift away from heel striking to forefoot striking and may continue to land with the heel strike. That's why it's most essential than ever when you run in minimalist running shoes to make the conscious effort to land with a forefoot strike and to have a continuing focus on landing four-footed during running, since the margin of impact load is more narrow in forefoot running than in heel strike running. So I just thought it would be of vital interest to outline the research that has concluded the potential consequential outcomes of heel striking in minimalist barefoot-inspired running shoes, in that those who heel strike in minimalist running shoes while running may be at greatest risk of getting injured, but that switching to a forefoot strike may make the most positive difference in helping you reach sustained low impact running and may help finish the job and helping you run more injury-free, whether you run barefoot or in barefoot-styled minimalistic running shoes. I hope you've enjoyed this video. For more information regarding the health and performance benefits of barefoot running and forefoot running, please hit the subscribe button down below. Thank you so much for listening and watching. Have fun out there on the roads and trails. Bye for now.